Good afternoon and welcome back to another video with a guy and his projects. Today we are working on my wife's minivan. This is a 2008 Dodge Grand Caravan. 4.0 liter SXT, should be the same as the Chrysler Town & Countries. Anything with the 4.0 liter I believe this should apply to. Other vehicles as well. The important thing being the 4.0 liter, I believe. So this should be applicable from 2008 to, I want to say 2018, whenever they discontinued this engine. Should all be very similar, I believe. If you dive in and find out it's not, let me know so I can correct some things in the video description. Anywho, we have a code P2096, which is a bank one running to lean code. So we just went to California. Right before California, we had a bank 1 sensor 102 sensor code. Everything looked good. The fuel trims looked okay, but for the sake of going to California, running a couple thousand miles and coming back, I went ahead and put a Mopar OEM O2 sensor in that bank 1 sensor 1 location. I got a video coming. May already be posted, may not. Either way, check out the playlist for the Grand Caravans. So put in new O2 sensor, went to California, drove around 1,500 miles or so. On the way home, about probably 200 miles from home, check engine light triggers again, and we got that P2096, which is bank 1 running to lean. That can be caused by a myriad of conditions, and not being a mechanic, I decided to take it in. We needed new tires anyway. We got a hole-in-one in California, and they were pretty dry rotted as is. We were planning on replacing them come spring. We went ahead and just replaced them anyway when I got home. So I took it in to get new tires, and I told them, hey, could you please do a diag and possible replacement on whatever's causing the issue. I have no problem paying a mechanic when it's something that I can't do, okay? I like to do my own work, but if I can't, then I take it to a mechanic, and I'm not a diagnostic guy. So I took it to go. They put these new tires on. We got the Toyos, check them out. I'll go ahead and link them in the description below if you're interested. So far, these are pretty decent tires. Anywho, we did the diag. They called me back, said it's going to be $970 to fix the condition. $970. They told me that the intake manifold gaskets, upper and lower, are leaking, and that is causing the condition. I have no problem paying a mechanic for something like that, except for the fact that I just spent $700 on the tires and another $900 to fix some gaskets. So I hate paying somebody to figure a problem out and then not having them do the work, but I can't afford $1,700 today. So we paid for the diagnostics, $150, and now I'm going to replace the gaskets and hope, cross my fingers, that their diagnostic was right. So there's always a risk. Remember that. I'm not a mechanic, and I hate taking work away from mechanics, especially when they diagnose it. But I also can't afford $1,700 for $40 worth of parts, okay? I just bought all the gaskets for literally, it was $21, okay? Both sets of gaskets, $21, RTV for another $7. I don't even know if I need it, and that's it. So yeah, I have a hard time with that. So anywho, we're gonna get started. This is the 4.0 liter 2008, which should be the same all the way to 2018 or something like that. Stay tuned. Okay, first things first, you're going to remove this decorative cover, get it out of your way, throw it away, toss it aside, whatever. Remove the negative cable from your battery to keep it from accidentally starting on you, as that would kind of suck actually. Alright, you're going to have a myriad of these connectors all around this upper plenum. Go ahead and remove them all. I'm not going to point them all out because half of them are in the back and hard to see, but you do have a few. I'm going to get rid of this air box for camera purposes. I need it out of my way. You can, or you can leave it there, up to you. You've got a couple more connectors on this side. I think there's like a total of 4 over in this area. And then one in the back right here as well. Coming here to the back of your plenum, the rear of your plenum, you have the EGR tube. The EGR tube doesn't have to be removed completely, but it does have to come from the top. The 2 bolts up top need to come off. That's holding this plate right here, right there. Those 2 got to come off. I'm removing the whole tube. Don't ask me why, just made the assumption I needed to. You don't.
So there's the tube if you do remove it all, but mainly just the upper portion. Alright, so there's 2 studs up in front of your plenum, between your plenum and your front bumper. Both those studs have nuts. Both the nuts and the studs have to be removed. Here I just removed the nuts holding on the wires, and later I had to go back and remove the studs. Save yourself some time, do them both at the same time. Alright, holding your upper plenum together, or not together, but to your lower plenum intake manifold, you have 6 bolts. You have 1, 2, 3 in a row here, and then you've got 3 more in the back. All of those are going to have to come out. They will not remove, they will just loosen up. There's retainers inside the plenum keeping them from coming all the way out. So get all those broken loose, and then go back and remove your studs if you didn't already. And like I said, this is when I realized I needed to remove them. So the studs got to come out. They're pretty easy. Easiest way to do it for me was with a box wrench. I have speed wrenches. They are amazing. I highly recommend them. There's your stud. Don't throw it on the ground like that because it could end up very bad for you. Alright, your plenum should theoretically be free if you got everything from the back, which I did not. There's another couple of hoses back here that need to be removed. Not a big deal. Just grab them, pull them out, and there you go. You can remove them from either side, whether the plenum side or find the other end. Up to you, doesn't affect anything. We're going to remove this hose right here. I believe this to be your PVC, and we're going to plug that hole so we don't drop any nuts or anything down there later, because that would really suck. Alright, so a couple more wire connectors over here by your thermostat and upper radiator hose. This hose is going to come off. There wasn't much fluid in there, coolant, just a little bit. You still want to catch it, keep it from making a mess. This hose right here is your upper radiator hose. This one did have a lot of coolant in there. You might see where we just removed that little hose. You can see the coolant squirting out as I start to remove this. There's probably a good quart and a half of coolant in this hose, so catch it, keep yourself from making a mess. If it gets on the engine block, it's going to burn off later and you're going to think you have problems, which is not the best deal. So go ahead and pull it apart. Usually twisting first before removing is easier. It just helps break everything loose. And you're going to pick this hose up and tuck it out of your way. And as you can see, the coolant from the block continued to leak out for a little bit. Not bad, but just be aware. There's a little bolt on the side of the manifold here that's got to come off. It's just holding your wires up. You're going to remove that. Remember to put it back in later. And I'm going to get rid of the filter because I need somewhere to clamp my GoPro. You don't need to do that. Alright, here on the fuel rail, you have 4 bolts holding the fuel rail to the manifold. You can remove all 8 bolts holding the manifold in. At this point, not knowing what I was doing, I removed the 4 holding the fuel rail in just so I could do things one thing at a time. It doesn't really matter. Go ahead and remove all 8 if you'd like, or follow along. Alright, so we broke this loose. All it does is pop off the fuel rail, but these wires to the ignition coils are way too short to do anything with the fuel rail, so I went ahead and popped out bank 2, which is the side closest to your bumper, and I would recommend you do the same. The wire loom is held to the valve covers. Go ahead and just pop those off with a flat blade screwdriver or whatever you have available. And now at this point you can almost pull the fuel rail up and out of the way. If I had realized there was a wire underneath the alternator, I would have removed that and gotten it all the way out of the way. However, I haven't gotten that far yet. So I just went ahead and removed the other 4 remaining bolts holding the lower manifold to the block. Alright, now I grabbed a vacuum. I'm just cleaning up all the loose dust and debris, keep myself clean, and pop! And the manifold is free. More fluid, more coolant leaking out below, just something to be aware of. Nothing to be concerned about, it's just residual fluid. All right, so your lower intake manifold is now free, more or less. We gotta get this fuel rail up. That's when I noticed there's a wire also underneath the alternator. Go ahead and unplug that, and now we can flip this fuel rail up and out of the way. All right, so manifold is removed. All right, guys, you've done the hardest part. Now, the fuel rail was kind of getting in my way for cleaning everything up, so I went ahead and grabbed a couple zip ties and zip tied it to the windshield cowl, and that just kept it from falling down over and over and over. Made it just a little bit easier. All right, so down here, this is bank 1. This is bank 1, cylinder 1. This is where I'm having my issue. That's your coil and your spark plugs underneath it. Bank 1 is what I'm getting for running lean. The other side, obviously, towards the bumper is bank 2. So this could just be from any of these gaskets having holes, any leak by, any kind of anything. So that is what we're replacing. So we're going to go ahead and remove that gasket, clean the heck out of it underneath it, and replace with brand new. And that is our goal of today. So that's your gasket. Go ahead and remove. And then you're going to have to remove whatever's left as far as gasket pieces go. For some reason, all 4 of these did not come with the gasket. Don't know why, but whatever. So those are now gone, out of the way. Again, we're going to vacuum up, clean up all that coolant down there in that cavity, or it's going to burn off later and you're going to freak out because something's burning. So I'm going to shove some paper towels in here just to keep from dropping any debris, nuts, bolts, tools, or whatever. You don't want to do that. You can go ahead and remove both gaskets. I just did one at a time for whatever reason. I used some of these gasket scrapers. They actually worked out really good. I'll link them down below. And you're just going to scrape this up. This is the most boring part of the whole job. It will take a while. Be patient. Do it once. Do it right. Any debris left under those gaskets when you put a new gasket on is going to create a spot for air and or coolant to escape, and you don't want that because that could be exactly what's causing your lean condition or rich condition right this moment. So like I said, this took a while. It's boring, but make sure you do a good job. I probably spent a good 35 minutes just cleaning up old gasket. Now this van does have 140,000 miles, and those gaskets have been sitting there that whole time, I'm going to assume. So there was quite a bit of sticky debris to clean up, but like I said, do it right, do it once. So we've got bank 1 all clean, looking how shiny that is. And now we're going to go ahead and do the second side, which would be bank 2. Same exact thing. Pick up your gaskets, throw them on the floor, in the garbage, wherever they're going, and grab whatever's left over and start cleaning away. It's quite fun. Not. Alright, so your gaskets are removed. Clean up all that. We're going to clean the the lower manifold as well. The manifold itself, this is where your upper plenum meets. All of this has to be clean, flat, and smooth. There might be some stain on there, but as long as it's flat and smooth, you're good. Alright, I'm just using some generic ATF here. I don't know if this is proper. Let me know in the comments below, but I cleaned up the injectors, the O-rings and around them, just because they were pretty gnarly. I didn't spend a lot of time scrubbing the little holes. I just kind of cleaned up the gunk. I run seafoam through, so internally I hope they're good, but I guess we'll find out. Alright, your new gaskets are going to go on. There's dimples in there, so you can only go one way. You can't go upside down like that. It just doesn't work. So just set them in place. There may be an easier way to do this. I don't know. This process right here probably took me about 5 minutes because, as you can see, the gaskets kept falling out of place and falling down. That said, I spent about 5 minutes trying to get this to line up perfectly without the gaskets falling, and it took about 5 minutes before I got it. It's not the end of the world, but if there's a better way, let me know. Alright, so I went ahead and put the 4 bolts, not clamping the fuel rail down. just to get this thing stuck in place so I didn't lose gaskets again. I then dropped the fuel rail in place, which took a little convincing. It didn't want to fit back in just the way it came out, and then I bolted that down. All of these are just hand tight at this point, just to keep everything where I wanted it. Alright, so you're going to bolt these down, I believe, to 21 foot-pounds is what I did. Starting in the center, working your way out so that the gaskets will sit perfectly. You don't want to start out and work in. Always start in, work out. Alright, now we're going to plug in our ignition coils that we unplugged. And you're going to clamp that little wire loom back in place in the holes that you removed it from on the valve cover. Do not forget to plug in under your alternator. That could annoy you really bad later. We're gonna plug this hose back in, boop, and get it out of the way. All right, back here, your coolant hoses, you can go ahead and reinstall as well. Definitely do not want to miss this step. Don't really want to miss any steps, but definitely not that step. Alright, so go ahead and get your little coolant line in and then your large coolant line in, and make sure you get those clamped back in place. I took advantage of the opportunity and tightened all these fittings down that were on the lines. Alright, so this is your upper intake manifold plenum, and that's the gasket. We are looking at this upside down right now. This is what's going to meet all that stuff you just cleaned on the lower intake manifold. This is our new gasket. You're just going to put it in here. I've seen people use RTV and glue of sorts and Vaseline. I don't use any of that. I just plug it in. I don't have any issues, typically speaking, and all is well. Alright, I'm just going to knock out any debris that happens to be in that cavity before I flip it upside down. This is for your EGR. You got that EGR tube I removed. That's where it sits, and it's going to go back in there. So I purchased a new gasket with it because, you know, might as well. It's this van is like 13 years old and 130,000 miles. So, all right, we're going to put that upper plenum back in place. And you got fresh gaskets underneath it now, and you're just going to find where it sets nice. Once you find where it sets nice, go ahead and thread the upper 6 bolts in place, and I torqued them down to 105 inch-pounds, not foot-pounds, 105 inch-pounds. Alright, so that bolt on the side of the manifold down there, you're going to go ahead and bolt that back in to hold everything it holds. And guys, we are just about there. Alright, your EGR tube's going back in. Again, you only had to remove the upper section, not the whole tube. Put any new gaskets on you need to, and stick this in its place, bolt it back together. Your EGR is very important for emissions and will trigger check engine lights. I remember on the last Town and Country we had, that was a problem, and yeah, I had to replace the whole thing twice. Alright, so all of your electrical connectors can again be plugged back in. They only plug in one way. Each plug only has one home. It's really hard, if not impossible, to mess up. Just make sure that when you do plug them in, you get them all the way down, seated correctly so that they clip into place. Alright, so the hardest part was just finding where all the wires ended up landing. They kind of all went all over the place, but you did find them. Plug these hoses in the back. I believe we unplugged 2 of them. Just make sure they're both plugged back in as well. There we go, and make sure it's not going to come off too easy. Put your filter back in if you pulled it out, your air box back on again if you pulled it out. It was not necessary for you. For me, I just needed camera room. And then your radiator, because we did drain, we lost a good probably 1.5 quart. We went ahead and topped off our radiator. Just top it off, burp it a little bit, you'll be good to go. Before you start the van up, I cycled the key a couple times, and then I turned it to turn the engine over, and it stumbled a little bit for just a second and picked itself up and ran very smoothly, guys. So just keep that in mind. Don't freak out if it doesn't start quite perfect. And obviously you won't be able to start without the battery, so put that battery back on and then give it a try. Alright guys, easy as that to do your intake manifold gaskets, both upper and lower. It feels like a big job when you're looking at it. You've never done it before. You don't know what you're doing. It's easy to get discouraged. It's easy to become afraid. It's easy to doubt yourself. This is not a hard job. It took me about 3 hours, admittedly. A lot of that was cleaning. I spent a lot of time cleaning. But you want that stuff clean. You want it solid. You want to put this back together and not take it back apart. So it's worth spending the time to do cleaning, but 3 hours is not bad. Very limited tools. It wasn't a lot of tools, just some basic wrenches and ratchets, and that was really it, guys. I'll link down most of the fun things down below. I'll link the parts. I'll link those gasket scrapers and maybe another option, so check it out. Hit that PayPal link. There's a direct donation to a guy and his projects there. Keep me live, keep me floating, so you guys can keep benefiting from these videos. And yeah, it's easy to become afraid when you're looking at a project like this. But somebody like me, I can't afford $970 for somebody else to do that. So I push myself, I do it. If you're always afraid, you'll never get nothing done. Just do it. I mean, you know, sometimes you just gotta grit your teeth and, you know, there's a valid fear that you'll get to a point and you won't be able to put it back together. Something will break. But how often does that really happen? And when it does happen, it just encourages you to stretch your brain a little bit and figure out a way to make it work. And then you've got a story, you've got a battle, you've got that sense of accomplishment when you actually finish it. So yeah, take care of your gaskets, and maybe you won't be doing this because you have to, like me. You'll be doing it because you want to, as preventative maintenance. If you guys liked what you saw, make sure you hit that thumbs up, slap that subscribe button, check out my other videos, leave a comment down below, let me know what you thought, and yeah, I like hearing from you guys. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.